Hi, my name is Brandon Blevins, and I'm from Glade Spring, Virginia. Today, I'm going to be talking about the evolution of the horror genre. Horror can be traced back to the stories of famous writers such as Mary Shelley, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Robert Louis Stevenson, Bram Stoker, and Edgar Allan Poe, with stories of the unexplained and supernatural. In 1919, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari was introduced. This film is about a mad scientist who uses humans as puppets. The last major silent horror film and the first vampire film was introduced in 1922. Nosferatu, which is based off of Bram Stoker's Dracula novel, but the characters' names were changed. During the 1930s, horror films began to talk. Some of the most notable horror films of this decade were Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, Freaks, and King Kong. Wolves were a global threat at the outset of the 40s. The Wolfman, which associates itself with many werewolf legends, was made because of the fear people had of wolves, especially in Europe. The 50s saw innovations such as CinemaScope, 3D, Percepto, and Smell-O-Vision, gimmicks that brought people away from their TV sets into theaters and drive-ins. Some of the best-known horror films that used these gimmicks were House on Haunted Hill, The Tingler. The 60s, which introduced us to films such as Psycho, which is considered to have elements of the slasher genre, and Hammer horror, which updated and changed most notably the Dracula and Frankenstein myths just a little. Also introduced was the beginning of the zombie films with George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. This film represents the unpleasant side of American society. Rosemary's Baby also came out in the 60s, dealing with the occult, and Rosemary believes she carried the spawn of Satan inside of her. In the 70s, the enemy was to be found in your own home. Whether it was your brother, as portrayed in Halloween, your son, as portrayed in The Omen, or your daughter, as portrayed in The Exorcist. The Exorcist was voted the scariest horror film of all time. The 70s had less humor and more paranoia. Two other 70s horror films were Jaws, about a killer great white shark, and The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, about a cannibalistic family. The 1980s was mostly populated by two slasher franchises, Friday the 13th, about a machete-wielding maniac named Jason Voorhees, and A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is about Freddy Krueger, who kills you in your sleep, then you die in real life. The Thing, which is about an alien taking over people, and Hellraiser about demonic Cenobites were also two very popular films during the 1980s. In the 1990s, the horror genre faded just a little until Scream in 1996, which poked fun at the rules of the slasher genre. The 2000s saw films such as Final Destination, which is about trying to escape death, Zombies resurfaced 28 days later, and torture became popular with the Saw and Hostel franchises. Today, horror films are mostly remakes, such as A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and Halloween, just to name a few. I'm looking forward to see what future horror films will be like with new technologies and the innovation of CGI.